Hi, everyone. Uh, we are beginning on Friday the last section of this course, and that is on Mormonism. Um, the reading is from this very short introduction um, on Mormonism, which was written by a Mormon, Richard Lyman Bushman. It's a friendly introduction to the religion and is very helpful in sketching out the history. So you're reading chapters 1 and 2, which will cover kind of the basics of the history and where Mormonism comes from. It'll start to answer your questions about Mormonism. Now we're on kind of a quick schedule with the discussion with the missionaries on on this coming Monday. So basically what we have is this reading, and what I'd like you to generate for Friday are 2 questions. And this is the challenge. Is one question should be aimed at the missionary himself or herself. I'm not sure about the gender yet. But about the lifestyle of being a missionary. So, um, uh, what's it like to be a missionary? What kind of media can you look at? Can you look at your cell phone? Do you have contact with family? Like, imagine yourself in the place of a missionary, a 2-year commitment that these missionaries have made. And what kinds of questions do you have about life for these missionaries? So, one question kind of around life. And the other question should be generated by kind of uh, related to kind of a systematic question. So, kind of the thing I want to avoid in the questions are kind of gotcha questions, right? This is a chance for us to model how to interact with people who hold views that we don't agree with. And so the idea isn't to put people on the spot, but to elicit questions that give understanding. Now, we want to understand a lot of different things, right? I think it's always interesting to hear the missionaries talk about LGBTQ issues. I think that's an evolving place for within Mormonism, the LDS Church. Um, Science questions about evolution and Darwin, for example. If I've had good experiences with students in the natural sciences asking questions along those lines. Um, uh, but I would kind of just stay away from clearly political kinds of questions because I think those can kind of raise defensiveness, right? We're looking for understanding issues and the way people think and experience the world. And here's the thing: is I'd ask you for this question: think systematically about religion. What is the place of Scripture in your life? Right? We've seen all these different examples of Scripture. Um, are there parts of Scripture you don't understand, or how do you use the Book of Mormon? Do you pray over it? How do you figure that out? Um, um, what is a ritual and a worship service like? There's elements that we've seen in all these different religious traditions, and a question of how that element works out in Mormonism would be really a great question. Um, uh, uh, what is prayer like? What do people get into arguments about the meaning of the Book of Mormon? Um, Things like this would be really interesting. So one kind of a personal question about the life of missionaries, and one more systematic question about an issue or a common theme in religions that we've looked at. What do Mormons think about other religions, for example? How do they respond to people who are of a completely different faith? How does Mormonism relate to Christianity? Right? These are a series of questions that I think would be really great to ask the missionaries. So that's what I'll look for. These will be kind of the graded Friday response. So make them thoughtful. One personal question, one more systematic issue-oriented question. One thing that I'd kind of point you to in the reading is the notion of testimony. So in the reading on page 28 and 29, there's a little bit of a kind of a call out box in here. You can't see it there, but about a testimony of someone who converted to Mormonism. In the video, you'll see that I posted on our Moodle site, you'll see a Jamaican man talking about why and he converted to Mormonism, and he's now an elder who is in London, at least when that was filmed. And then I think you'll also hear there's a large reliance on testimony and personal experience in Mormonism. So I'm sure that we'll hear the missionaries talk about their personal testimony. And that's something to think about. What is the relationship of religious experience to truth, right? Are we skeptical of people who say something like, I could feel I feel it's true inside me. I read the Book of Mormon, I prayed, and I could feel that it was true. Is that a legitimate religious claim, or is that something that we should be skeptical about? That's something that we'll talk about as a class next week. But I want to kind of key you in that that's something to be listening for here as we talk to the missionaries and also in the reading. All right. I'm going to hold an extra session like I did last week. I'm meeting the Mormons to kind of go over. They're curious about who you all are too. So I'm going to meet them at 2. So instead of that, I'm going to meet you all at 1. So from 1 to 2, we'll have a session for anyone who needs to make up work in the past. You can come on live on Friday and have an extra session. And if you just want to talk about your question and types of things, you have questions about Mormonism. Mormonism is one of my favorite topics. As you'll see, the history of it and what they believe and so on. Then come on at that point. So I'll put up a Zoom session. I'll send it out that we'll be meeting from 1 to 2 p.m. on Friday. And then I'll break off to be able to meet with the Mormon missionaries ahead of time. Okay, talk to you all later. And I look forward to seeing your questions.